haven't got this one though, right? This one's working now.
Hello and welcome to Game 1 on Track 2 for Tropicarnage 2025. Up now we have Inner West Roller Derby League Skate Crashers versus South Sea Alliance. Not to be confused with South Sea Roller Derby. A lot of South Seas here this weekend. So, playing for the Skate Crashers, we have 04 Killer Knockingbird, 118 Vicious Delicious, 1406 User, 17 Peanut Butter Jammer, 27 Pansy Slamsy, 325 Ash Bandicoot, 505 Rainbow Smash, 66 Backdoor Barbie, 7 Crash Bandit, 70 Rasputin, 77 Velvet Whiplash, 808 Baddie, 888 China Wall, 9 Jinx, and on the bench they have Mr. Bump, Lou Riot, Pie, and Ziggy Wheeldust. And playing for South Sea Alliance, we have 10 Quicksilver, 101 Skywalker, 116 Candy Crusher, 12 Ginger Snaps, 13 Barbie, 192 Fred, 229 Ballistic, 25 Edgar Allan Plow, aka Eep, 32 Wumpy, 33 Roller Nerdy, 333 Screech, 379 Grave Digger, 64 Ash Crasham, 666 Noisy, 668 Dead Meat, 8 Bibiscate, 83 Bossy, 88 Pamphlet, 96 Little Mischief, and on the bench they have Toxic Shock, Sophie, Blitz, and Tay. And on track now we have Velvet Whiplash picking up lead jammer for the Skate Crashers. And BB Skate has completed initial pass for South Sea Alliance. Southeast Alliance, rather. I have a typo on my paperwork. Currently, we have 4 points picked up by the Skate Crashers. Southeast Alliance still looking to open their account. Lining up on the jammer line now, we have Roller Nerdy for Southeast Alliance, and that is Jinx for the Skate Crashers. Jinx being recycled by, I believe that was Bossy. And Roller Nerdy getting run back by Rasputin. Meanwhile, Jinx has picked up lead jammer status for the Skate Crashers. Rasputin once again sending Roller Nerdy back and down. Meanwhile, 4 points picked up by Jinx. Bit of a pile up on the outside line there as the jam comes to a conclusion. Nope, that was Whistle Bleed. We are still live. All right, another 4 points for Jinx. Initial pass completed by Roller Nerdy. And now the jam is over. 8-point jam for the, I feel like there's more points there. 8-point jam for the Skate Crashers. Southeast Alliance not picking up points. And on the microphone, I am Purple Rain to answer the question in the chat. All right, we have Dead Meat jamming for Southeast Alliance. And that is Killer Knockingbird for the Skate Crashers, but Dead Meat is a lead jammer. First lead we've had for Southeast Alliance. Knockingbird is out of the pack. Deadbeat calling the, or perhaps called for injury, actually. Just going into an official timeout while this is dealt with. Shout out to our medics for keeping everyone nice and safe across this whole weekend. A lot of love in the chat coming from the Skate Crashers fan club. I guess being a local, much of the Southeast Alliance cheer squad is here in person. Just a shout out to some of our sponsors while we are in a timeout. Our penalty box is sponsored by Spank Alley, international supplier of roller derby jerseys, armbands, helmet covers, and more for teams and individuals, customized to suit everybody. Just for everyone playing at home, the downed skater is upright. And our pivot lines are sponsored by our hosts, Queensland Roller Derby Leagues, aka Quirtle. Quirtle's mission is to support, develop, and promote active participation in roller derby across Queensland. The Quirtle Committee is made up of representatives from roller derby leagues across Queensland who work together to coordinate roller derby events such as the annual tournament Trop Cup. We are now back. We have Pamphlet on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance, and that is Peanut Butter Jammer for the Skate Crashers. Lead jammer called for Peanut Butter Jammer. Skate Crashers losing their pivot to the Spank Alley penalty box. Pamphlet being sent to the penalty box for a cut track. So this is now a power jam for the Skate Crashers. Peanut Butter Jammer picking up 4 points. And that is another 4 points for Peanut Butter Jammer. Calling the jam. We have Skate Crashers on 23. Southeast Alliance still looking to kick off their scoring. Pamphlet actually being sent to the penalty box in that jam. So we currently have a power jam, and it is Backdoor Barbie taking that power jam for the Skate Crashers. And that is a lead jammer for Backdoor Barbie as the Skate Crashers lose a blocker to the Spank Alley penalty box.
I'm not even zooming or anything. I just follow the pack.
Pamphlet has returned to the track. Both teams putting up some strong defensive walls at the moment. Neither of these jammers making much purchase. We have had a star pass to Ginger Snaps for Southeast Alliance. That is 4 points picked up by a Backdoor Barbie. Ginger Snaps has completed an initial pass. Backdoor Barbie calls the jam. Looks like 1 little point snuck in there by Southeast Alliance. We are on the board. Skate Crashers still out in front on 27. have a Velvet Whiplash out on the jammer line up against BB Skate. That is Velvet Whiplash out for lead jammer, but BB Skate has also made an initial pass. That pack gained some speed, but Velvet Whiplash picking up 1 point and then calling the jam. We again have Jinx lining up on the jammer line against Roller Nerdy for Southeast Alliance. Still a slight pack advantage to Southeast Alliance with a Skate Crashers blocker in the penalty box. Velvet Whiplash through for lead. That is not Velvet Whiplash. Jinx through for lead jammer with a bit of a Stephen Bradbury moment, able to get past the downed Southeast Alliance blockers. Jinx out for 4 points with a little hop around that inside apex. There has been a star pass. I believe that is Wampy now with the star for Southeast Alliance. Another 4 points picked up by Jinx for the Skate Crashers. And a great jump there by Jinx. Just a shame it didn't quite land upright. Wampy getting sent to the back of the pack by User as Jinx comes through the front of the pack for another 4 points. Wampy is through for initial pass. Jinx is out for another 4 points. A 16-point jam so far for Jinx. That is jam called. We have Southeast Alliance on 2. Skate Crashers out in front on 44. We have Pamphlet back out jamming for Southeast Alliance, and that is Peanut Butter Jammer jamming for the Skate Crashers. Bit of a pile up there at the front of the pack. We've got Noisy taking a seat in the penalty box for Southeast Alliance. Peanut Butter Jammer has picked up lead jammer for the Skate Crashers. Pamphlet has completed initial pass, but Peanut Butter Jammer slides on through for 4 points and then calls the jam. So we'll have a slight pack advantage to the Skate Crashers coming into this next jam, with Noisy remaining in the penalty box. We have BB Skate out jamming for Southeast Alliance, and that is Backdoor Barbie back on track for the Skate Crashers and picking up the lead jammer. User sending BB Skate to the back of the pack as Backdoor Barbie returns to the pack for that first scoring pass and is through for those 4 points. User once again just being a general nuisance to BB Skate. That is a solid Skate Crashers defensive wall at the back. Backdoor Barbie is through for 4 points out of the front of the pack. user being sent to the penalty box for a low block. That is another 4 points for Backdoor Barbie, and we have had a star pass to Noisy for Southeast Alliance. Noisy almost sending Backdoor Barbie into the announcer desk. But Backdoor Barbie patiently using a mix of strategy to call that jam after running the clock a little bit. We have Roller Nerdy back on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance, and that is Killer Knockingbird for the Skate Crashers. Killer Knockingbird picking up lead jammer. Killer Knockingbird out for 4 points. Roller Nerdy still looking for that initial pass. Some super strong defense coming from the Skate Crashers. Roller Nerdy being sent to the penalty box, I believe, for a cut track. So this is a power jam for Killer Knockingbird. Knockingbird taking another 4 points and then calling the jam. And we have an official review being called by the Skate Crashers. So for anyone wondering what this official review is about, Skate Crashers are seeking a destruction penalty on the white pivot from the previous jam. So keep an eye on the penalty box and we'll see what comes of that. Speaking of our penalty box, it is sponsored by Spank Alley. Other elements of our track, we have a jam line sponsored by Roller Derby Heaven, proud supporters of Aussie Roller Derby for 15 years. Their team lives and breathes derby, giving you expert advice, the best gear, and a friendly face every time. You can find them at rollerderbyheaven.com.au. And seeing that Southeast Alliance are fielding a pivot, I would say that official review was unsuccessful. Skate Crashers a bit thin on the ground at the moment with just 2 blockers on track. But despite having to contend with 4 blockers, Velvet Whiplash picks up a lead jammer. This is currently a power jam for the Skate Crashers, with Roller Nerdy remaining in the penalty box from the previous jam. That is 4 points for Velvet Whiplash. Roller Nerdy has returned to the track. That was some great teamwork. Velvet Whiplash using the return of Pansy Slamsy from the penalty box to their advantage. That is initial pass completed for Roller Nerdy. Meanwhile, Ginger Snaps taking Velvet Whiplash down, but Velvet Whiplash calls the jam. 12-point jam there for Velvet Whiplash, taking the Skate Crushers to 84. Southeast Alliance remaining on 2. We have Jinx on the jam line for the Skate Crushers once again, up against Pamphlet for Southeast Alliance. And we are in an official timeout. We are back. That was a very brief official timeout. Bit of a collision there at the back of the pack, but I believe it was 2 Skate Crushers skaters taking themselves down. Noisy sending Jinx to the ground and running them back. Both of these teams putting up some strong defense in this jam, not making life easy for these jammers. Jinx is through for lead jammer though. Pamphlet still looking for that initial pass. As Jinx comes back into the pack looking for points. That is 4 points for Jinx. Pamphlet is out for initial pass for Southeast Alliance. Jinx shaking off a defense from Noisy, only to run into a Bossy and then calling the jam. We have Skate Crushers on 92 after that 8-point jam. Southeast Alliance remaining on 2. Killer Knockingbird on the jammer line for the Skate Crushers, and that is a BB Skate out there for Southeast Alliance. Slide pack advantage to the Skate Crushers with a Southeast Alliance blocker in the Spank Alley penalty box. And that is lead jammer to Killer Knockingbird. Ginger Snaps taking a star pass and completing initial pass for Southeast Alliance, but Killer Knockingbird says no, picks up 4 points and calls the jam. Peanut Butter Jammer back out on the jammer line for the Skate Crushers, up against Roller Nerdy for Southeast Alliance. Batty basically sitting on Roller Nerdy there. But through the mush that has been happening, Peanut Butter Jammer out for lead jammer through the front of the pack. Peanut Butter Jammer through for another 4 points. And that is initial pass completed by Roller Nerdy. So, question in the chat, where is the other team from? I'm assuming this is potentially in reference to Southeast Alliance. My paperwork here does say East Coast Roller Derby, but I know there is also some Northern Brisbane Rollers and Toowoomba City Rollers players in that roster. Bit of a mashup. Skate Crashers, of course, coming from the inner west of Sydney. Speaking of Skate Crashers, they have a lead jammer. This time it is a Backdoor Barbie. Pamphlet a jamming for Southeast Alliance and completing initial pass. The Backdoor Barbie takes the 4 points and calls the jam. Skate Crashers sitting on 106 to Southeast Alliance's 2. Velvet Whiplash for the Skate Crashers and BB Skate for Southeast Alliance on the jammer line. Both teams currently down a blocker. Velvet Whiplash picking up lead jammer as BB Skate is sent out of bounds by user. Velvet Whiplash coming back into the pack and a quick scoring pass around the outside, 4 points. There has been a star pass to Bossy for Southeast Alliance. And that is initial pass completed for Southeast Alliance. Velvet Whiplash calls the jam. An 8-point jam for Velvet Whiplash, taking Skate Crashers to 114. Southeast Alliance on 2. Just a little under 10 minutes left in this first half. Jinx out on the jammer line for the Skate Crashers, up against Roller Nerdy for Southeast Alliance. A solid hit out there by Vicious Delicious on Roller Nerdy. Meanwhile, out the front of the pack, Jinx has picked up a lead jammer. Roller Nerdy still looking for that initial pass. Jinx is out the front of the pack for 4 more points. Roller Nerdy going for a jammer on jammer hit, but Jinx none too phased. Through for another 4 points. There has been a star pass on the Southeast Alliance. That is now Ginger Snaps jamming after completing initial pass. But Jinx calls the jam. Skate Crashers 122 to Southeast Alliance 2. Got Pamphlet out on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance. Killer Knockingbird back out for the Skate Crashers. Currently, the Spank Alley penalty box is empty. And that is lead jammer to Killer Knockingbird, but Southeast Alliance Pamphlet has also already... Let's try that again. Southeast Alliance has also completed initial pass. Jam is called. No points for anyone in that particular jam. Peanut Butter Jammer out on the jammer line for the Skate Crashers, up against BB Skate for Southeast Alliance. That is lead jammer to Peanut Butter Jammer. BB Skate getting run back by Vicious Delicious. Meanwhile, 4 points picked up by Peanut Butter Jammer. A couple of Skate Crushers blockers sitting in the penalty box. We have Pansy Slamsy and Rasputin. BB Skate also, unfortunately, heading to the penalty box. So this is a power jam for Skate Crushers. 4 points picked up by Peanut Butter Jammer and calling the jam. Skate Crushers on 132, Southeast Alliance on 2. We've got Backdoor Barbie stepping up to take the power jam for the Skate Crushers. We have a jammer bounce situation. Backdoor Barbie getting sent to the Spank Alley penalty box for a cut track. BB Skate being released. But the Skate Crushers determined to send BB Skate as far back as possible, burning that penalty time. Baddie getting sent to the penalty box for a back block. Meanwhile, Backdoor Barbie is back on track and running down the outside line to complete initial pass. BB Skate is through for lead jammer with some team offense. Backdoor Barbie, of course, not being eligible for lead after picking up that penalty. 4 points picked up by Backdoor Barbie. BB Skate calling the jam, picking up 2 points for Southeast Alliance. They have 3 points to Southeast Alliance. They are now on 5. Skate Crushers on 134. Heading into the final 4 minutes of this first half. Velvet Whiplash back out on the jammer line for the Skate Crushers up against Roller Nerdy. Very slight pack advantage to Southeast Alliance, but back to Velvet Whiplash not phased and quickly picking up lead jammer. Roller Nerdy headed to the penalty box for a cut track, so it is a power jam for Velvet Whiplash, who picks up 4 points, then calls the jam. We've got Jinx taking the power jam for the Skate Crushers up against Roller Nerdy. Jinx is out for lead jammer, but those Southeast Alliance blockers certainly put up a fight. And that is 4 points picked up for Jinx. Roller Nerdy back on track from the Spank Alley penalty box. Had another star pass to Ginger Snaps, completing initial pass. Jinx calling the jam. Skate Crushers sitting on 145 to Southeast Alliance 5. Time for 1 or 2 more jams in this first half. Got Pamphlet and a Killer Knockingbird lining up on the Roller Derby Heaven jam line with the the blockers all crowding around that Quirtle pivot line. That is a lead jammer to Killer Knockingbird. And Pamphlet being sent to the Spank Alley penalty box for a cut track. That is another 4 points for Killer Knockingbird, calling the jam. We have time for at least one more jam. Peanut Butter Jammer getting ready to take this power jam. Very slight pack advantage to Southeast Alliance with a Skate Crushers blocker in the penalty box. That is lead jammer to Peanut Butter Jammer. Another Skate Crushers blocker heading into the penalty box as Peanut Butter Jammer picks up 4 points. Pamphlet returning to the track from the Spank Alley penalty box. Another 4 points picked up by Peanut Butter Jammer. That is initial pass completed by Pamphlet. Another 4 points for Peanut Butter Jammer. Jam is over with 5 seconds on the clock. We'll see if we have any timeout shenanigans. And we do not. Going into halftime, we have Skate Crushers on 161 to Southeast Alliance on 5. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Alrighty, attempting to take a look at our penalty board. All right, it is not populated. Never mind that. If there's a long time out, we'll get you an update. But we are about a minute away from being back for the second half. If you missed the first half, we have the Skate Crushers sitting on 161 to Southeast Alliance on 5. Oh, cool. This one has no sponsor reads. I'm just making a mess now. Shout out to our after party sponsors, Come to Daddy in West End. If you are not here today but making an appearance at the tournament later in the week, the after party will be a Monday night. And to show off a little bit more of Brisbane, we're heading into the city for West End to Come to Daddy, which is a new all-inclusive LGBTQIA plus venue. That's a bar that has a focus on Australian-produced spirits, beers and wines. But now we are back with the second half. We have Roller Nerdy out for Southeast Alliance and Velvet Whiplash taking a seat in the penalty box for that may have been a back block for the Skate Crushers. So it is a Roller Nerdy power jam. Roller Nerdy still looking for that initial pass. And we will have a jammer bounce and a 2-minute jam. Roller Nerdy also headed towards the penalty box for a cut track. Velvet Whiplash returning to the track. Some solid hits from Wampy there on Velvet Whiplash, but Velvet Whiplash is through for initial pass and Wampy picking up a forearms penalty for one of those hits. Velvet Whiplash out for a quick 4 points. Roller Nerdy returning to the track. Velvet Whiplash coming back into the pack with some fancy footwork on the outside line to stay in bounds and pick up another 4 points. Solid hit there by Vicious Delicious on Roller Nerdy. Velvet Whiplash is through for another 4 points. And there's been a star pass to Ginger Snaps for Southeast Alliance. This pack is absolutely racing. Making sure these jammers get a bit of extra cardio, but they are both out of the front of the pack. 2 points to Southeast Alliance for 2 Skate Crushers. Skate Crushers on 177, a 16-point jam from Velvet Whiplash there. 8 points total for Southeast Alliance. BB Skate on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance, and that is Jinx for the Skate Crushers. And Jinx is through for lead jammer. BB Skate getting firmly wedged in that Skate Crushers defense. With a bit of assistance from the teammates, BB Skate is out for initial pass around the inside line. 4 points picked up by Jinx. Jinx calling the jam, but no points for anyone on that second pass. Skate Crushers picking up 4 total that jam, taking them to 181 to Southeast Alliance's 8. We've got Pamphlet out on the Jammer line for Southeast Alliance and Peanut Butter Jammer for the Skate Crashers. And that is Peanut Butter Jammer lead. Jammer out the front of the pack. Vicious Delicious recycling Pamphlet and drawing Pamphlet back. Vicious Delicious going to the penalty box for a low block on Pamphlet now, though. Eep taking down Peanut Butter Jammer. Pamphlet is out for initial pass as Peanut Butter Jammer comes through for 4 points. Peanut Butter Jammer calls the jam. A 7-point jam there for the Skate Crashers, taking them to 188. Rollin' Nerdy back on the Jammer line for Southeast Alliance, and that is Killer Knockingbird out for the Skate Crashers. Bossy being forced to yield due to a false start. Vicious Delicious drawing Rollin' Nerdy back on their way back from the penalty box. Killer Knockingbird coming back into the pack for a scoring pass. And that is 4 points to the Skate Crashers. Roller Nerdy absolutely taking down Crash Bandit, I believe that was. And Vicious Delicious taking down Roller Nerdy and getting sent for another trip to the Spank Alley penalty box. That is initial pass completed for Roller Nerdy. Killer Knockingbird trying to go for another trip around the track. A 16-point jam there for Killer Knockingbird. BB Skate lining up on the Jammer line for the Southeast Alliance up against Velvet Whiplash for the Skate Crashers. Very slight pack advantage to Southeast Alliance with Vicious Delicious remaining in the penalty box from the previous jam. Velvet Whiplash is through around the inside apex to pick up lead Jammer. Pansy Slamsy drawing BB Skate back to the back of the pack. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, Velvet Whiplash coming through for another 4 points. Ginger Snaps taking another star pass and completing initial pass for Southeast Alliance. Velvet Whiplash getting sent to the penalty box for a cut track. So let's see if Ginger Snaps can get some points on the board for Southeast Alliance. That is a bit of a mishmash swampy pack. It's almost like a rugby scrum that Ginger Snaps is being forced to contend with there. Two Southeast Alliance blockers heading to the penalty box. That is BB Skate and Eep. Velvet Whiplash is returning to the track from the penalty box. Wompy and Skywalker doing what they can to slow down Velvet Whiplash, but Velvet Whiplash is through for another 4 points. And that is another 4 points to Velvet Whiplash. Ginger Snaps looking for some assistance. Meanwhile, Velvet Whiplash through for another 4 points. And Eep getting sent back to the penalty box for destroying the pack. 16-point jam there for Velvet Whiplash, taking Skate Crushers to 220. Southeast Alliance on 12. 4 points picked up by Southeast on that one. We are currently in an official timeout. So a shout out to some of our vendor sponsors. We have From the Flame Trees, proud Waka Waka woman Shani Ferrari, aka Gypsy Wild, is the artist behind From the Flame Trees, a place of creativity, cultural sharing, and storytelling through art. Best known in the roller derby community for her skating on sacred land designs, Shani's art honours the deep and ongoing connection Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have to the lands we skate upon. And I will concur, those From the Flame Trees skating on sacred ground shirts are quite beautiful. We have Pamphlet back on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance up against Backdoor Barbie for the Skate Crushers. Pamphlet going for a bit of a jammer action on the jammer line, but Backdoor Barbie is through for lead. Pamphlet has also completed an initial pass. Bossy also joining Eep in the penalty box for Southeast Alliance. Backdoor Barbie taking the points and calling the jam a 3-point jam there for the Skate Crushers. So the Skate Crushers will have a bit of a pack advantage coming into this next jam. There is just 2 Southeast Alliance blockers on the track. Roller Nerdy is on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance, and Peanut Butter Jammer is once again out for the Skate Crushers. And that is Peanut Butter Jammer out for lead at the front of the pack. Eep has returned from the penalty box. Roller Nerdy still looking for that initial pass as Peanut Butter Jammer is working on a first scoring pass and finds 4 points. Bossy has also returned to the track from the penalty box. Bossy drawing Peanut Butter Jammer right to the back of the pack. Roller Nerdy close to freedom, but then being forced to yield. Southeast Alliance throwing for defense at Peanut Butter Jammer, but Peanut Butter Jammer is through for 4 points. Oh, a big hit from Wampy on Peanut Butter Jammer. And almost getting taken out by their own teammate. That was Rainbow Smash falling at Peanut Butter Jammer's feet. Another star pass to Ginger Snaps towards the end of that jam. An 11-point jam for the Skate Crushers, taking them to 238. Southeast Alliance on 12. Killer Knockingbird on the jammer line for the Skate Crushers, and that is BB Skate out for Southeast Alliance. Killer Knockingbird picking up a lead, a jammer, using Ash Bandicoot as a bit of a shopping trolley there. And that is a quick 4 points picked up by Killer Knockingbird. BB Skate getting run back by the Skate Crushers defense, and that is another 4 points for Killer Knockingbird. BB Skate is out for initial pass. And that is another 4 points for Killer Knockingbird. Calling the jam, shutting down BB Skate. 16-point jam there for Killer Knockingbird, a solid effort. Skate Crushers 254 to Southeast Alliance on 12. Velvet Whiplash taking the jammer line once again for the Skate Crushers, and that is Pamphlet for Southeast Alliance. A bit of a pile-up on the track there. But through the chaos, Velvet Whiplash picks up a lead, and Pamphlet has also completed initial pass. Velvet Whiplash taking the points and calling the jam. So both teams at a pack disadvantage. Well, not really, it's equal. But both teams down a blocker at the start of this jam. We have Jinx lining up against Roland Nerdy for Southeast Alliance, but Jinx is out like a shot through the inside line for lead jammer. Roland Nerdy being forced to yield behind user. Jinx through out of the front of the pack for 4 points. And that is another 4 points for Jinx. Some great footwork there by Jinx on one skate, but just not quite managing to stay in bounds, heading to the penalty box for a cut track. So this shall be a 2-minute jam with no lead. Bossy headed towards the penalty box as Ballistic is released. Roland Nerdy out for a hard-fought initial pass. We are 90 seconds into this jam. Jinx back on track from the penalty box. And Jinx is out for another 4 points. Jinx completing another pass right on the whistle. A 15-point jam is not bad, especially when a penalty was also served in the middle of it. Skate Crushers on 273, Southeast Alliance on 12. But a shout out to Roller Nerdy, giving it their all. That was a slog. We have Peanut Butter Jammer back out for the Skate Crushers, and that is BB Skate jamming for Southeast Alliance, but your lead jammer is Peanut Butter Jammer. Pansy Slamsy sending BB Skate back, but BB Skate close to initial. There we go, initial pass completed. That is another 4 points for Peanut Butter Jammer. And that is jam called. Pamphlet taking to the jammer line once again for Southeast Alliance. And Killer Knockingbird is back on track for the skate crashes. And it looks like Pamphlet has been declared a lead jammer. That is initial pass completed for Killer Knockingbird. Pamphlet being forced to yield to user, but calling the jam. 2 points for Southeast Alliance, taking them to 14. 277 for skate crushes. Bit over 10 minutes remaining in this game. We're in the second half now. We have Dead Meat back on track for Southeast Alliance, and that is Velvet Whiplash back on for the skate crashes. Rasputin sending Dead Meat to the back of the pack. Velvet Whiplash picking up a lead jammer for the skate crashes. Skate crashes have lost Vicious Delicious to the penalty box though. Velvet Whiplash is through for 4 points. And that is another 4 points for Velvet Whiplash. Ginger Snaps taking a star pass from a Dead Meat and completing initial pass. Velvet Whiplash through for another 4 points and calling the jam. BB Skate back on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance up against Backdoor Barbie for the skate crashes. Backdoor Barbie is out for lead jammer for the skate crashes. Backdoor Barbie almost out for points, but then hit out of bounds and forced to yield to Bossy. But now we have Backdoor Barbie picking up those 4 points. BB Skate still looking for a way out of the pack for initial pass and finds one. Some great, not sure how active it was, but there was definitely offense in there by the skate crashers blockers holding space to allow Backdoor Barbie to slip on through for another 4 points. We have skate crashes on 297 to Southeast Alliance on 14. Peanut Butter Jammer is back on track up against Roller Nerdy. Roller Nerdy and Rainbow Smash hugging it out while we were in an official timeout. It's nice to see that even though this has been a challenging game for Southeast Alliance, there is still some love between these teams. This is roller derby though. We do tend to, beat each other up for an hour, and then all go have a beer together. While we are paused, a shout out to some of our other vendor sponsors. We have 888, been on around since 1996 and developing tough, stylish, protective gear for the action sports industry ever since. The team is continuously dreaming up new products, incorporating new technology, and maintaining their hard-earned reputation for skate, bike, snow, water, and derby gear of the highest quality and craftsmanship. We have Nerdy doing shark impressions. The referee is having some serious discussions. We have 8 minutes left on the period clock. This track does take a little bit of a pause after this game, but at 2:30 on track 2, we will have awards of the skate from Western Australia Roller Derby up against Regional Alliance Derby's Team Rad. All right, looks like we have all our ducks in a row and we are ready to roll once again to finish off this game. Alrighty. Both jammers immediately right into the thick of it. Wompy chasing down Peanut Butter Jammer. But Peanut Butter Jammer is out for the lead for the skate crashes. Rainbow Smash sending Roller Nerdy to the back of the pack. It is a super solid wall there of Rainbow Smash and Pansy Slamsy. Peanut Butter Jammer coming back around into the pack. Roller Nerdy getting sent to the penalty box for a cut track. Meanwhile, Peanut Butter Jammer out for 4 points. Eep also taking a seat in the penalty box. So a power jam for the skate crashers with a slight pack advantage. But the skate crashers deciding this would be a tasty setup for a fresh set of jammer legs and calling the jam. A 12-point jam there for Peanut Butter Jammer, taking the skate crashers to 309. Southeast Alliance on 14. Killer Knockingbird taking this power jam with a pack advantage start. And that is Killer Knockingbird out for lead jammer. Roller Nerdy returning to track. Eep exiting the penalty box as Bossy goes in. 4 points picked up by Killer Knockingbird. Crash Bandit running Roller Nerdy back to the back of the pack. That is another 4 points for Killer Knockingbird out the front of the pack. That is another 4 points for Killer Knockingbird. Roller Nerdy getting taken down by, I think that maybe Crash Bandit again. That is another 4 points for Killer Mockingbird. Killer Mockingbird out again, currently on a 20-point jam. There is about 15 seconds left, so potentially time to make that an even larger jam. Currently at 329 for the skate crashes, but I think there may potentially be some points from that last pass to be delivered. 24, taking a 27-point jam apparently. Skate crashes 336 to Southeast Alliance 14. Mere minutes left on the period clock. Pamphlet getting taken down at the back of the pack as that is Jinx through for lead jammer for the skate crashes. Pansy Slamsy just making life real difficult for Pamphlet. That is 4 points picked up by Jinx. Rasputin getting sent to the penalty box. That is initial pass completed for Pamphlet. And another 4 points for Jinx. Jinx calling the jam. Bit over 2 minutes remaining on the period clock. Skate crashes on 344 to Southeast Alliance 14. We've got BB Skate on the jammer line for Southeast Alliance up against Backdoor Barbie for the skate crashes. A slow and steady start to this jam for our jammers. And BB Skate round the outside, lead jammer for Southeast Alliance. Backdoor Barbie also completing initial pass though and out of the pack like a shot. BB Skate calling the jam, but it looks like no points for anyone. Time for at least one more jam on the period clock. Roller Nerdy lining up once again for Southeast Alliance, and that is Peanut Butter Jammer for the skate crashes. That is lead jammer to Peanut Butter Jammer. Roller Nerdy almost out for initial pass, but going down. They are through, actually, as Vicious Delicious did get sent to the penalty box. Peanut Butter Jammer coming back around. Four points for Peanut Butter Jammer in that jam, taking skate crashes to 348. Southeast Alliance on 14. I believe we have time for one more jam. We have a Pamphlet taking this jam for Southeast Alliance, and that is Kill a Mockingbird for skate crashes. Very slight pack advantage to Southeast Alliance with a skate crashes blocker in the bin. Pamphlet not messing around this jam, throwing Killer Mockingbird down off the line. Now this jam has settled a little bit more. Both jammers firmly wedged in those defensive walls. Vicious Delicious is back on track from the penalty box. And that is a lead jammer to Killer Mockingbird. Pamphlet getting a run back by User as Killer Mockingbird comes out of the pack for another 4 points. And it is a power jam. That is potentially a double penalty for Pamphlet due to the manner of exiting the track. So that is a minute power jam for Killer Mockingbird to finish off this game for the Skate Crushers. There's not even a minute left in this jam. Vicious Delicious coming in for some big O. But that is jam called. Unofficial final scores. The Skate Crushers on 358, showing us they are not here to mess around. And Southeast Alliance on 14. And I believe that was our rolling whistle. So now that is the final score. Skate Crushers 358 taking the win over Southeast Alliance on 14. This track does have a bit of a break, but a reminder at 2:30 p.m. on track 2, there is Wards of the Skate up against Team Rad. I have been Purple Rain, and you've been a wonderful audience.